Diddy's connection to Michael Jackson's death is really spooky and eerie. Now, oddly enough, the story begins on March 9th, 1997, the day that Biggie died.
Mir Muhammad, the guy that was wearing the bow tie the night that Biggie got killed, the Muslim guy, the guy that you believe that was behind Biggie's murder. Are you sure that he was the one that was behind it? Do you really believe that? Because I seen on the LA local news that he live in Georgia now and he does real estate.
All who are not tapped in, Amir Muhammad, the Muslim who was at the scene of Biggie's death, was identified by Lil C's, Biggie's best friend, and Diddy's bodyguard, Gene Deal, as the shooter. They would identify him as the person they believe shot Biggie.
Why was he there? In a blue suit, white shirt, blue bow tie. Why did he walk up to me and Puff's car? Do you understand me? Why 5 to 8 to 10 minutes later, Lil C see a guy in a blue suit, white shirt, blue bow tie, peanut head, shoot big. I know who walked up to us, brother. You understand me? I know the picture I saw with the face messed up.
But check it out. Here's where things get a little weird and spooky. Amir Muhammad has strong ties to the military and LAPD. So despite the fact that Lil C's and Gene Deal is identifying Amir Muhammad as the shooter, he was never really investigated or probed into. And Amir Muhammad is still living his life gracefully, man, in Georgia. He's a real estate tycoon. Now, where he got the money to start up this real estate career, who knows? But here's where things get a little spooky. If you take a deep dive into Amir Muhammad's past, you will start to realize, man, Amir Muhammad has never been on an up and come up, and he has more tragedy in his portfolio.
Do you understand that, my brother? $750,000 from a bank robbery from two cops. One of the cops would use godfather of his son. They never got the $750,000 back. That'll help any real estate business. I don't care what he do. Did they also say that he was the same individual and the same person that got into a situation with his ex-wife or his girlfriend and her boyfriend and they end up dead?
Tragedy allegedly follows Amir Muhammad wherever he goes, but it's not just tragedy follows him, it's tragedy with no consequences or accountability, because Amir Muhammad is allegedly, or was allegedly, a top Hollywood handler. If you needed something done, he knows how to get it done and how to cover it up due to his connections to law enforcement and to the military. So Amir Muhammad was being accused, or allegedly was working on the behalf of Diddy to take out Biggie, because Amir Muhammad walked up to Diddy's vehicle and had a conversation with Diddy before allegedly killing Biggie. Now, here's where things get a little bit weird. You see, in this new lawsuit, Diddy is being accused of running, a sex ring, a cult-like thing on the Virgin Islands for the elites.
P. Diddy's sexual blackmail ring puts Michael Jackson's whole life story in a whole new light. So this new lawsuit just came out that shows tons of evidence that P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, has been running a sexual blackmail operation very much like Jeffrey Epstein, but in the rap and music industry for basically 30 years. And in that lawsuit, we learned that his head of security while he's running the sexual blackmail ring is this guy named Faheem Muhammad.
If you're a thinker, you've probably caught on by now. Faheem Muhammad, the man who's Diddy's head of security, handler, and who's in charge of Diddy's alleged sex cult for the elite. I'm talking about the elites of the elites, including music executives who we all know and revere. That man, well, that's the little brother of Amir Muhammad, Diddy's former handler, who allegedly got Biggie killed on behalf of Diddy. But it gets even weirder. You see, Faheem Muhammad, before he was Diddy's handler, before he was handling Diddy's affairs and sort of concealing and hiding a lot of the secrets that come from the sex cults for the elites, well, Faheem Muhammad was Michael Jackson's head of security at 21 years old.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Muhammad, I want to take your attention back to June of 2009. At that time, where did you work?
For Michael Jackson, sir.
And what did you do for Michael Jackson in June 2009?
I worked his security for him.
I'm sorry?
I worked security for him, security.
Okay. At that point in time, how long had you worked security for Mr. Jackson?
Approximately 10 months.
And what were your responsibilities?
I was the chief of his security, so my responsibilities ranged from making sure his house was protected, making sure his children's were protected, and making sure his day-to-day activities and movement was all safe and planned.
It's safe to say the average 21-year-old is not being placed in charge of Michael freaking Jackson's head of security, yet alone being placed in charge of Michael Jackson kids' safety as well. That's literally unheard of. But Faheem Muhammad was placed in that position by handlers because Faheem Muhammad had ties to his brother Amir Muhammad, and they were elite handlers, bro. They knew how to get the job done. Now, it was unclear exactly why the handlers put Faheem Muhammad in charge of Michael Jackson's affairs, but we will get to that soon. If you just want an example as to how powerful Faheem Muhammad is, let me go ahead and break it down for you, right? Faheem Muhammad made a shooting that Diddy and his son committed go away, like just disappear off the face of the planet. Like, you would have to dig deep into the media archives to even find any type of reference to this shooting.
The CIA and the Mossad were running a blackmail ring in the Virgin Islands. Something else that we learned in the Diddy lawsuit was that the media and the authorities are complicit. So the ring has real power, not imagined power. Again, I am using the word alleged because this person, despite having, video evidence and he has presented photographic evidence, this has not yet gone through the court system. And so we can't say that it's entirely true. And I'd say the biggest point that we took away from these Diddy docs was that this ring, if you believe it exists, can and will murder people to protect themselves. And he intimated this event that happened allegedly at a recording studio where Diddy and his son allegedly shot someone, and it was covered up by the LAPD and then the media. All right, so within those docs, and this is where it gets relevant, there's one being the person that can do the cleanups, right? This is the guy that you are supposed to call if you get into any sort of a scenario. So in these docs, it says, Mr. Combs instructs his staff to always contact Mr. Muhammad, that is Faheem Muhammad, if they are ever pulled over by the police in Miami or California. And upon information and belief, this is regarding the shooting that took place at Chalice Recording Studios. Again, he is alleging that Diddy and his son shot someone. And after that shooting, the documents say explicitly that Mr. Muhammad spoke with the LAPD after G was shot at the recording studio. The LAPD was in the recording studio and witnessed the blood in the restroom, and they went with the bogus claim that the shooting of G occurred outside of the studio. This was all thanks to Mr. Muhammad's connections within law enforcement.
Tragedy tends to follow Faheem Muhammad and his brother Amir wherever they go. Faheem Muhammad, who was in charge of Michael Jackson's safety, who was Michael Jackson's chief of security, well, he was the last person to see Michael Jackson alive. Michael Jackson died under his watch.
That is the room that I walked into where I seen Mr. Jackson laying dead at.
Okay. And let me ask you, when you first came then into the foyer area, you would turn right to have the vantage point we see in People's 21, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Here's where we get into the meat and potatoes of things. Faheem Muhammad's current job is to be Diddy handler, and that includes protecting the elite music executives who are going to the Virgin Islands to party with Diddy, if you get my drift.
Who, before working for Diddy, was the head of security for Michael Jackson when he was only 21. And he was one of the first people on the scene when Michael Jackson died. And before we go to Michael Jackson, the most important part of the Diddy case to bring across is the fact that the record executives at the very top knew what P. Diddy was doing. They were attending the parties with underage girls where they were spiking drinks. They were deeply involved in Diddy's personal life. And all evidence points to them supporting his operation.
Now, the same music executives that Faheem Muhammad is currently responsible for protecting are the same music executives that Michael Jackson was beefing with at the time of his death, when Faheem Muhammad was responsible for Michael Jackson's safety and head of security.
Be able to access the primary sources. And yes, Jackson did say that the Jews are, probably referring to the Jews in the music industry, are like leeches and that they took everything from him and that they did it on purpose. But when you look into those allegations or those insults, you realize that because of his will that was probably fake and filed right before his death. So the will was signed on July 7th in Los Angeles by 3 witnesses. But Jackson's family pointed out that he was in New York that day and there's video proving it. So they changed their story. But the witnesses definitely saw it and it was just in New York. So anyways, because of this will, John Branca was put in charge of his estate, which included his net worth of $230 million, but far more importantly, his 50% share of Sony ATV worth $750 million. Yes, he was taking on Sony. He was going after the hand that feeds him. And when you look into John Branca, in 2003, Jackson fired Branca because he was siphoning money out of Jackson's accounts in collusion with Sony Music CEO Tommy Mottola and funneling it through a bunch of offshore accounts in the Caribbean. John Branca is Jewish, and Tommy Mottola is also Jewish. Plus, Tommy Mottola married Mariah Carey partway through his life when she was a young woman, and he was an old man. And there are other allegations about that whole situation.
And just like his brother Amir, right when tragedy happens, they both somehow just so stumble into an unheard amount of wealth. Like Faheem Muhammad, after the Michael Jackson tragedy happened, he somehow got really rich. Like he just bought his 14-year-old son a bunch of land that's worth a couple $100,000.
Headlines for gifting his 13-year-old son 40 acres, I believe, of land.
YouTube has a policy against conspiracy theories, so of course I don't believe that Faheem Muhammad was a handler who was placed within Michael Jackson's security personnel by the elites, the music executives to be exact, and his role was to take out Michael Jackson so they could retain that 50% of Sony that Michael Jackson had. Of course I don't believe that, right? You know, it's a wacky conspiracy theory. Do you believe it? Let me know in the comment section. And if you're still watching, click on the video somewhere on my screen to find out how this No Jumper interview just started a gang war in LA. Click on this video here to find out what I'm talking about. I'm out of here, folks. Peace.